E olha eu aqui de novo. Sejam muito bem-vindos ao universo Trophy Hunters Stories The Path of Destinies. Progresso do jogo 74%, 20 troféus de bronze, 13 de prata e 1 de ouro. Beleza? Vamos nós, na continuidade. Agora o objetivo é upar a espada. Upar a espada e revelar as outras histórias, né? Acho que vai demorar um pouquinho. Tem muita história para revelar. O jogo é bem repetitivo, né? As fases, né? Eu fiz 4 histórias só. Aqui, ó. Opções. Aqui, ó, vou dar uma dica. Ativar recompensas no caminho do herói, beleza? Aqui, ó, mostrar opções, mostrar ícone, mostrar o ícone de descobridor de verdades. Deixa ela ativada, tá? Deixa ativar, vamos ativar. Como eu virei o jogo, já terminei a história, né? Uma delas, né? Então, mostrar ícone descobridor de verdades. Vou deixar ativada. Ativar recompensas. Também vou deixar ativado. Beleza. Vamos continuar aqui. Eu só fiz isso porque eu terminei uma das primeiras histórias, né? Digamos assim, em partes. Agora pra nós é pra aparecer uma fechadura pra indicar os caminhos que a gente tem que ir e tal. Então tem que aparecer essa fechadura aí, beleza?
That the rabbit resented him. The Pino was hilarious because he was so down on himself and everyone else. But behind the laughs, he wasn't a happy camper. Was this payback? Or did the Empire have his little white tail in a vice?
Só vou achar materiais em baús mesmo.
Impatient.
Não, aqui é um... Tem um baú lá, mas já fui, né? Então, agora é mais finalizar as histórias mesmo, né? Vamos... Não precisa dar prioridade agora, né? E ficar abrindo porta, essas coisas aradas, não. Agora é ir finalizando os capítulos.
sometime.
Essa bolinha que tá seguindo a gente nos ajuda também, né?
Lapino would betray him. The core was dangerous. And Renata had a fleeting idea that the two ideas went together somehow. And then it was gone again. Ah, damn ideas. They never stuck around when you needed them.
Bloqueado.
Haven't you always wanted to do that?
Ele faz aqui. Beleza, aumentei mais a vida.
Bloody and exhausted, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing shuffling his favorite deck. Now that he knew what the rabbit was, there were a few things about him that Renato didn't find so amusing anymore. You sent me an urgent message saying that you're in danger. Oh, I am. The ravens are coming. Now, I've got a clever plan to kidnap Zenobia. Renato wanted to clap shackles on the rabbit and shout, "You're a traitor, and I'm not falling for it." But if there was one thing Renato was sure of, it was that the core of the Sky River was dangerous mostly to its user. If he could put it in the Emperor's hands, old Isengrim III might blow himself and his fleet up with it. Yes, that was it. Renato felt like a real hero, brave and smart. Right. Now, all Renato had to do was fight his way through Zenobia's invading troops, sneak onto her ship and into her bedroom and kidnap her without
Se aparece outra coisa depois.
Then he would rely on her love for him to convince her how evil her father was. So she'd run away with him instead of going back to her father, who was going to blow himself up. It did sound a little risky. But Renato had a feeling it would work out somehow. It always did.
Mais 10 pra melhorar isso aqui.
So that's what they meant by a firewall. What unlocks a firewall?
Pegar essa aqui.
Gogglers. Bernardo hated gogglers. It was almost impossible to sneak past them. If one didn't spot you, another one would.
Vou entrar no poço aqui agora.
This chest smelled kind of funky. He hoped he didn't get it in his clothes.
No poço não, no bueiro.
Bernardo was halfway to Zenobia's encampment when Lupino showed up. He was disheveled and distraught. They jumped us. I barely got away. Oh, they got the core. Oh, it was all going according to plan, thought Bernardo. Now he just needed Zenobia on his side. Yes, that was even better. The Iblis Stone. Zenobia could get it. And then the Emperor would have to pursue them. Wait. No. The gem would corrupt anyone. Even her. That's it, he thought. Even Lupino. Even though Lupino was already a traitor. It would turn him against his secret master, the Emperor. He would try to make himself Emperor. And the Emperor would have to defend himself with the core. Boom. He was a super genius. And so, Bernardo set about getting himself captured by Zenobia to turn her against her father. Once she knew the truth about her father's plans for her, he sent her to fetch the Iblis Stone. Unfortunately, once she had it, the Iblis Stone took hold of her. In a rage, she decided to assassinate her father and become Empress. Bernardo pursued her to the final battle to stop her becoming evil. Zenobia slew the Emperor. Lupino shot Zenobia. Renato killed Lupino. Bittersweet victory was at hand, but then the core exploded, destroying both the Imperial and Rebel fleets. Death, Dark Ages, the usual thing. He had tried something bold and paid the price for it. Right. Now, all Renato had to do was fight his way through Zenobia's invading troops, sneak onto her ship and into her bedroom, and kidnap her without any of her dozens of guards alerting her. Then, he would rely on her love for him to convince her how evil her father was, so she'd run away with him instead of going back to her father, who was going to blow himself up. It sounded a little risky. But Renato had a feeling it would work out somehow. It always did. He didn't even need to aim it. That ought to be enough for a proper sword, you thought?
É.
Renato was bored with his old sword. Oh, hey, a crafting bench.
Mais um troféu. Renzo gostaria dessas. Deixei todas as espadas no máximo.
These things really slice like ham. Yeah. Bernardo was halfway to Zenobia's encampment when Lapino showed up.
Vamos lá.
He was disheveled and distraught. They jumped us. I barely got away. Oh, they got the core. Oh, it was all going according to plan, thought Bernardo. Now he just needed Zenobia on his side. Yes, that was even better. The Iblis Stone. Zenobia could get it. And then the Emperor would have to pursue them. Wait. No. The gem would corrupt anyone. Even her. That's it, he thought. Even Lapino. Even though Lapino was already a traitor. It would turn him against his secret master, the Emperor. He would try to make himself Emperor. And the Emperor would have to defend himself with the core. Boom. He was a super genius. This is terrible, Bernardo told the rabbit. If only I had gone for the Iblis Stone. But now it's lost in enemy territory. He handed Lapino a map. It gives the bearer so much power. We can only hope the Emperor never finds it. What was that? Said Lapino. I think someone's following us. I didn't hear anything. Rabbit ears. You go on ahead. I'll check it out. And with that, Lapino hopped off with the map. He hadn't noticed that path before. Bernardo slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. She was curled up on her bed. He'd forgotten how beautiful she was, how sleek, how soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She was made of smoke, and he noticed he had a very solid blade to his throat. Did you really think you could capture me? Purred a familiar voice. I just wanted to chat, said Bernardo. Did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you? He needs a sacrifice. Someone who truly loves him, to make a bargain with the lost gods. That's a vicious lie. He wants to bring them back. That's crazy. Why would anyone... They could make him immortal. An eater of souls. And with that, her eyes widened. She understood. Renato told her how he had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred.
Apertei pra pular, não pulou.
In a burnt village. At midnight, the Emperor's victims had come to him in his dreams to tell him of the hideous eldritch rituals they'd been sacrificed in. He could still see those kittens and puppies. Their wide, sad eyes, their moist noses. You can't prove that. I've got a witness at the observatory. He couldn't tell her, not yet, why he was really here. He didn't want...
Agora pulou.
There were stickers all over the platform for really hot lady foxes, with pictures and addresses and everything. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them. It was time for a little exploration. Not really. I'd know if my father started practicing black magic. Why? Would you join in? No. I'd destroy his books and I'd... Oh, God. Okay. You're not completely wrong. They... spears. Easy to dodge, but boy do they sting if you didn't pay attention. Building these platforms was so expensive, they'd run out of budget for guardrails. The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The Ravens had taken special care to... So, Renato explained his brilliant gambit. Sending Lapino to get the Iblis Stone, become super powerful and corrupted, provoke the Emperor into using the core against him, thus blowing up both of them, and hopefully the fleet too. Let me visit your council, she said, shaken. I want to help. Could he really trust her?
Beleza, agora a gente vai aqui embaixo.
She said she had an errand to run, so they met up sometime later in the mountains. She seemed different. It seemed she'd gone and knocked Lapino out with drowsy gas and taken the Iblis Stone from him. Whoa, what? No, that wasn't a plan. I know. Your plan was terrible. Now where's the council? Couldn't we just go somewhere? Quiet, Talk this over? You lying son of a bitch. They're not here. Her sword was bloody. I told you the truth. Well, mostly. I'm going to kill my father now. But first, I'm going to kill you. And that is exactly what she did. He tried something bold and paid the price for it.
Eu só morro nas histórias, velho.
He couldn't tell her, not yet, why he was really here. He didn't want her to... Renato wondered if it wasn't cheaper to build bridges and stairs. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them. Don't you think I'd know if my father started practicing black magic?
De novo, velho. O problema é que é bem repetitivo, né, mano?
If he was a weapons engineer, Renato would make the cannonballs go much faster. Fire randomly, obviously. Ever used? Or not? The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The Ravens had taken special care to burn the reanimated witness to cinders. Zenobia stared at the carnage. So, Renato explained his brilliant gambit. Sending Lapino to get the Iblis Stone, become super powerful and corrupted, provoke the Emperor into using the core against him, thus blowing up both of them, and hopefully the fleet too. Let me visit your council, she said, shaken. I want to help. Could he really trust her? He'd done it. He'd made Zenobia see
Tá merda,
who her
velho.
father really was. What had Zenobia gone off to do? What was more important than meeting the rebel council? Had he made a mistake, sending her to the ruins? No. He knew they could trust each other. He could trust her because she never broke her word. And she could trust him because she could see... Well... do all the killing for him. But sport, wouldn't it? Or fun. As he came around the bend, there was Lapino, unconscious on the side of the path. And Renato could smell a familiar, sweet, smoky scent. Who? Zenobia. It had to be. She never used a combat spell when she could use drowsy gas. That meant she had the Iblis stone. What would it do to her? She hated her father. She'd kill him for sure. The council wouldn't mind if she killed the Emperor, but murdering her father would destroy her. He had to get to whatever ledge she was on and talk her down from it. Traitors! Long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good. Travel at night, so long as there are razors to set on fire. Everyone in the council chamber was dead. Zenobia stood shivering in the courtyard, drenched in blood. Why? He managed. They started arguing with me. I lost my temper and I wanted their blood. Well, not me. The stone did. Why did you take it from Lupino? I had a plan. You had a stupid plan, she said. I'm going to go kill my father now. No, you can't. You'll just take his place. You'll become worse than him. Get out of my way, or I'll kill you too.
Tô fazendo o mesmo caminho daquela hora.
Renata watched her board her ship and sail off. A few days later,
Caminho do herói. Tem que fazer outro caminho agora.
It opened in the sky, black as the Iblis stone itself. It stretched and ripped like a vast fatal womb. And a gaze, black and pitiless as the sun passed through the void into the land. And so the lost god Iblis once again came into his own. And time stopped.
Morreu de novo.
He had tried something bold and paid the price for it. What had Zenobia gone off to do? What was more important than meeting the rebel council? Had he made a mistake? Sending her to the ruins? No. He knew they could trust each other. He could trust her because she never broke her word. And she could trust him because she could see right through him. Well, she'd probably be there well before him. She at least didn't have to fight her way through rainstorms of ravens.
Acho que vou ter que entrar em outra história. E lá dentro eu faço outro caminho. Caralho, hein? Vai demorar. Eu já tava nessa história, não teve como sair mais, né?
This chest contained a Vorpal sword. I'm just kidding. Vorpal swords don't exist.
Não vou abrir aí.
As he came around the bend,
Nossa.
Pino, unconscious on the side of the path.
Vou entrar na história 1.
Familiar, sweet,
Ver se lá dentro eu consigo fazer para outro caminho, né?
it had to be.
E assim
Never
sucessivamente.
used a combat spell when she could use drowsy gas. That meant she had the
Aqui é o caminho do herói, eu
What
acho.
would it do to her? She hated her father now. She could kill him for sure. The council wouldn't mind if she killed the emperor, but murdering her father would stun her. He had to get to whatever ledge she was on and talk her down from it.
Não precisa pegar mais nada. Só XP. Tá dando bem pouco XP.
The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. It was on fire. So far, so good. That's how we do it, said Renato to himself. Everyone in the council chamber was dead. Zenobia stood shivering in the courtyard, drenched in blood. Why? He managed. They started arguing with me. I lost my temper and I wanted their blood. Well, not me. The stone did. Why did you take it from Lupino? I had a plan. You had a stupid plan, she said. I'm going to go kill my father now. No, you can't. You'll just take his place. You'll become worse than him. Get out of my way, or I'll kill you too. You won't kill me. The Empire had seized his ship. They'd have to take it back.
Se eu acertasse a escolha, já tava aqui, né? Mas se você errar a escolha, você volta tudo. Aí você morre e volta tudo, velho.
Every day he was getting better and better. Zenobia was in no shape to fight. But he never fought so well. He wasn't fighting for money or loot or a cause. He was fighting for her. For them. His sword danced, his feet flew, and the ravens recoiled from his ferocity. Say hi to gravity for me. Was. This would be the perfect place for a tic-tac-toe. But they did not go unnoticed.
Esse é o caminho do herói.
And along the lines of the Imperial flagship, Renato turned downwind to gain speed. The Raven ships could pursue, but they couldn't close. The Farspeaker croaked, "Return her and live!" "Go sacrifice yourself," yelled Renato. "Then you won't have her either." On the flagship, the Emperor was readying some arcane weapon. It couldn't be. It was the core. A devastating beam lanced out of the flagship. Renato zigzagged wildly to keep the Farfair out of it. Now the Raven scout ships were closing the distance, and the beam was getting closer too. Then came a blinding flash, and the air was searingly hot all around him. There was a thunderous, deafening roar. He could smell burnt oak and burnt feathers and burnt flesh. But when he could hear and see again, they were alive and unhurt. And they were alone in the sky. Zenobia embraced him. They had done it. Through luck and through love, they had won the war. "Avalon, here we come," he said as he held her arms wide in the prow of the boat and let her feel its speed. "Maybe the real Avalon is wherever we're together," she said. And so, after a bit of an argument, Reynardo and Zenobia went to one of the two Avalons. The one shrouded in mists, or the one in their hearts. But which one they went to, I'll never tell. He'd done it. He'd forged his own destiny. Well, he hadn't actually done it. But he knew what he would do. Reynardo smiled at the book. He practically wanted to kiss it. The kid's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. He'd saved the book and saved the world. Reynardo owed him and his mother so much. Reynardo lowered the mainsail and let the Farfarer shoot forward in the breeze. Second star to the right, and straight on till morning. This time, he would win.
Agora tinha que ter para novo jogo, hein? Ou não? Que eu não consigo escolher as outras histórias, velho. É que se eu for jogar de novo, eu vou continuar de novo a história. Vou voltar aqui, vamos ver aqui, continuar o jogo. Ah, ele para aqui, ó.
The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Reynardo knew that using it.
Ele volta, eu vou ter que continuar tudo de novo. Fazer um novo jogo.
Also, a temple had risen out of
Deixa eu só dar uma olhada aqui.
The Iblis stone was hidden there.
O que a gente vai fazer agora?
It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty.
Perdi meu progresso.
Maybe he could find a way to use it.
Mas progresso não é importante, agora o importante é abrir essa história. Olha lá, tem uma chave ali. Que diabos de chave é essa, velho? Vamos ver se ele vai abrir alguma coisa nessa chave.
Reynardo finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause, and maybe Reynardo could use that somehow.
A chave de novo.
Reynardo couldn't quite put his paw on when he realized Lapino was working for the Empire. He'd never exactly seen Lapino sending coded messages to the palace, but he was sure. The rabbit had been on too many disastrous missions where he was the only survivor, or where he accidentally missed getting on the boat that went down to the abyss in flames. If Renato could prevent Lapino from getting back to the fleet with all the intelligence he'd probably gathered, it might be worth the trip. How had they come to this? They'd been on so many adventures together. Lapino had talked Renato out of prison at least 4 times, and Renato had rescued Lapino from at least 2 lynch mobs. She's the one in the Raven Room, talking to her son.
Tá, eu tô.
Get it? Cool. I just made that up. But he'd always felt that the rabbit resented him. Lapino was hilarious because he was so down on himself and everyone else. But behind the laughs, he wasn't a
Vê se vai aparecer chave de novo.
Was this payback? Or did the Empire have his little white tail in a vice?
Continua a história, mas você não consegue mudar pra outros lugares, cara. Se for pra um novo jogo, acho que volta tudo as histórias também, né? Fodeu, velho.
What good would that do him? Lapino would betray him. The call was dangerous. Renato had a fleeting idea that the 2 ideas went together somehow. And then it was gone again. Damn on. They never stuck around when you needed them. Bloody and exhausted, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing shuffling his favorite deck. Oh, I am. The ravens are coming. Now, I got a clever plan to kidnap Zenobia. Renato wanted to clap shackles on the rabbit and shout, "You're a traitor, and I'm not falling for it." But if there was one thing Renato was sure of,
É a mesma história de novo.
Sky River was
Se não aparecer chave, é a mesma história.
If he could put it in the Emperor's hands, old Lysengram III might blow himself and his fleet up with it. Yes, that was it.
É isso aí, ó. Eu não consigo sair das histórias, velho. Caralho. Eu tenho a história 5, a 9, a 13 e a 18. Vamos fazer.
Traitor? I'm hurt, said Lapino. Why ever would you say that? We found your code book, said Renato. They hadn't, but he hoped Lapino would blow his cover. You got me, said Lapino. And you know what? I don't regret a thing. It's always about you, isn't it? You're the pretty hero. You get the girl, you get the medal, and what do I get? Rabbit food. I thought you liked rabbit food. Go to hell, said Lapino. And he made a gesture. And 20 ravens came out of nowhere and stabbed Renato to death. He had tried something bold and paid the price for it. How had they come to this? They'd been on so many adventures together. Lapino had talked Renato out of prison at least 4 times, and Renato had rescued Lapino from at least 2 lynch mobs. Felt that the rabbit resented him. Lapino was hilarious because he was so down on himself and everyone else. But behind the laughs, he wasn't a happy camper. Ooh, was this payback? Or did the Empire have his little white tail in a vice?
Esse caminho eu não lembro que eu fiz, não.
Ravens were landing everywhere from dropships. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, the rabbit would give the Empire all the intelligence he'd been stealing from the rebellion, and they'd probably give him a medal. He'd have to be very careful about how he played Lapino. At the slightest hint of danger, the mad rabbit would take off like a rabbit. Bloody and exhausted, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing shuffling his favorite deck. Now that he knew what the rabbit was, there were a few things about him that Renato didn't find so amusing. Oh, I am. The ravens are coming. Now, I got a clever plan to kidnap Zenobia. Renato wanted to clap shackles on the rabbit and shout, "You're a traitor, and I'm not falling for it." But if there was one thing Renato was sure of, it was that the core of the Sky River was dangerous mostly to its user. If he could put it in the Emperor's hands, old Isengrim III might blow himself and his fleet up with it. Yes, that was it. Renato felt like a real hero. Brave. Right. Now, all Renato had to do was fight his way through Zenobia's invading troops,
Tô no mesmo lugar.
ship and into her bedroom and...
É novo jogo, tem que fazer, não.
Time, the infamous rover Renato plundered the floating isles. Then his mother called him to her deathbed. "Swear to me that you won't die on the gallows," she rasped. Reluctantly, he swore. And he
Meus
whiled away
ícones.
his days at home with music, cards, and wine. that the Emperor had changed. He'd been good once, a shy, almost humble toad. He'd built universities. Then people started whispering about mass graves in the woods, midnight rituals, victims screaming.
Eu não consigo sair do caminho do herói nem a pau, cara.
And no one ever returned. The ravens had come to Ubar scouting for ancient books said to be of great power. But the librarians had hidden the books, so they'd burnt the librarians. The citizens, outraged, had driven them off. The ravens had come back with dropships. The kid had fled with one of those books. He was brave and dumb and wanted to join the rebellion. And Reynardo had promised his mother he'd protect him. The kid was looking down, watching his city burn. Sorry, kid, Reynardo told the kid. Look, if we give them the book, they'll leave you alone. My mother died for this book! I promised her I'd protect you. Oh, damn it.
Puta que
The kid
pariu.
had run off. With the book, of course. So Reynardo had to run after him.
Nossa. Tive que fazer tudo de novo, velho.
The two ravens were staring at the kid
Não
like
consigo
he
fazer
was dinner.
sair daquele caminho nem a pau, mano.
He was what was in their
Bom, agora eu tenho
Hey, Reynardo said. They cocked their heads at him. Pick on someone as ugly as you. Wait,
ícone.
didn't come out right. For the Emperor! The ravens cawed and rushed at him. A dropship flew overhead. He hoped they hadn't noticed him. The kid.
Bom, pelo menos eu peguei todas as skills, né?
Oh, right. The Gate of Heroes. Someone's idea of a joke, making the Skyship docks a gated community. You needed a hero's sword to open it. And the kid was on the other side of the gate. Who let you through? Promise me you'll take the book to the rebels. Or I'm gonna steal your ship. I'm not taking that damn book anywhere. And neither are you. Try and stop me, laughed the kid. I bet you don't even have a hero's sword. And with that, the kid hopped away. Had to hand it to the kid. He was an idiot, but he had guts. Where was Reynardo going to get a hero sword? Ore and wind essence? That sounds about perfect. A hero sword. QED. This is what he got for settling down and finding people to care about. The kid's mum had been a swell cook, and she'd laughed at Reynardo's jokes, even when he didn't know he'd made one. And then the ravens had come to burn her. And she'd made him promise to protect the kid. But she never told him where the book was, just the kid. He came up to a ledge. It was too far to jump. There'd been a bridge here before, hadn't there? And there was Peter, giggling at him. How'd you get across? He asked the kid. Where'd you find a hook? I hopped, said the kid. Wise-ass kid. Hey, look out behind you! Cute, said Reynardo. Ah, ravens. It was time to talk some sense into the kid. Just hook his way across the ledge and chase the kid down. Thing was, he hadn't used his hook since he'd retired. How had he done it? Maybe if he meditated, At that altar there. He'd remember his old skills. It was starting to come back to him. Something you never completely forgot. Like how to freeze time when attacking. The more he fought, the more he'd probably remember. And there was the Farfarer. She was the fastest ship he'd ever known. She could do the Kestra run in 12 furlongs. Oh, so the salesman had told him. And something told him the kid was about to walk into an ambush. "Stop!" he shouted. "I'm not giving you the book!" shouted the kid, and took off. "No! Peter!" The kid ran for it, and a goggler nailed him with its ivy. The book was unburned. Next to it were the buckles from the kid's shoes, and a kid-sized pile of ashes. Damn it. Why hadn't he lied and told the kid he'd take the book to the rebels? The kid would be alive now. Really pissed off and betrayed, but alive. Oh, damn it. Renato picked up the book. He couldn't let the Empire have it now. He was going to have to get it out of there. He'd be a wanted man. Probably have to join the rebellion just to have a place to dock. Well, he'd hated home life anyway. What was the big deal about this book anyway? Maybe he should open it and find out. All that had been years ago. How many? The war was a blur, and now 3 Raven scout ships were chasing him. "Where are you running, rebel?" cawed the Raven captain over the loud hailer. Renato could see them cranking up their catapults. "Just going out for milk?" Renato, the rebellion was out of time. Unless Renato could bring a game changer. Maybe he could. Renato had found out where he could find the pieces of the Sky Ripper, the legendary weapon that had exiled the lost gods. Surely a legendary weapon could win.
Agora eu vou fazer todas as segundas escolhas agora. As primeiras eu não vou não.
Had sent
Na
Renato a
segunda.
desperate message saying he had a brilliant scheme to save the rebellion. If Renato could only rescue him. Renato dived the Farfarer towards the abyss. As he felt the heat of the jet stream, the Raven ships peeled off, not stable enough to follow him down there. Now it was time to choose. Lapino or the Sky Ripper. Every child knew about the Sky Ripper. As he set foot on the island, Renato could not help but feel a tinge of guilt. He'd left Lapino behind. He hoped the Mad Rabbit had somehow escaped the Ravens. He hoped they hadn't eaten him. If they had, he hoped they hadn't eaten him alive. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper? Renato never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it? You blinked. The people who had built this castle, did they even know what monstrous weapon lay hidden within their walls? The Sky Ripper could destroy anything it touched, or so the legend said. As the Transcendent Emperor had fought the Lost Gods, thousands had died. But Renato had been through wars. The only merciful war was a short one.
Kill the fox! Caught the ravens. Nobody said they were original.
See? That wasn't so hard. Starting to come back to him. Something you never completely forgot. Like how to freeze time when attacking. The more he fought, the more he'd probably remember. There it was. Sky Ripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway. The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Sky Ripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him. It was a no-brainer. He looked up at the old trees around him. They were so big and so old. They'd been there before he was born. And they'd be... Anyway, who cared? He was plenty important. He was a hero. And soon he'd prove it. And this is why heroes are called dashing, Renato thought. See? Dashing? Get it? There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. I'll just have a dash, thought Renato. In a swirl of new... There were fewer and fewer trees. There were only these huge crystalline growths. Had those been here before? He no longer heard birds except for the feverish cawing of the ravens when they attacked. He couldn't smell the small animals of the forest. The mice and rabbits. Where had they gone? And he was getting hungry too. This was an unhealthy place to be.
Can't we just agree to disagree? Said Renato. No?
The 20-sided core made him feel physically sick. Once he had sneaked into a temple of the dark arts, and he hadn't liked what he smelt and saw there. This felt like that. As quick as he could, he ran the icosahedron into the armature. The wheels began. He carried his prize back to the Farfarer. Now, he had to make his next move. There was a key Imperial outpost on the Nexus. If this really was some sort of super weapon, he could use it to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if it wasn't, well, better to know that before the final battle. But maybe he should show it to some scientists first. There was an observatory on the Nexus. Maybe he should go there before he fired it. Renato had never been much of a student. At Sword Fu school, he'd never read the books, just looked at the pictures. I'm Zenobia. But weapons he understood. His gut told him that the Sky Ripper would work great. He would use it to take out the Imperial outpost. And what's the worst that could happen? The thing wouldn't work, and then he'd take it to the scientists. As he set out down the path, Renato wondered why the parts of the Sky River had only surfaced now, thousands of years after the Transcendent Emperor had discarded it. This Emperor, Isengrim III, had performed terrible, bloodthirsty rituals to invoke the lost gods. Perhaps that was bringing up lost artifacts. How perfect, then, that the Sky Ripper would reappear to be his destruction.
Who needed bridges anyway?
Renato's blood was up. He just needed to smash something. I wonder what I could make with all these sword crafting materials, thought Renato. He was tired of... Renato had never met a weapon without a trigger or a handle. How did this thing work? A crafting bench. Renato wondered what he could make with it. The Sky Ripper was making a whining noise now, and its wheels were spinning so fast he could no longer see them. Renato had a thought. "Please?" he asked. The Sky Ripper began to glow. "Ooh, yeah, sure it will," cracked Renato. "Pull the other one."
If you don't trust me, go see Calaveras. He'll tell you the same thing.
Oh, she would say that. That sounded sensible. Why did she always have to sound sensible all the time? Oh, it was infuriating. Of course she would say that. He was supposed to hurry and bring the Sky Ripper to the council so the rebels could actually win the war. But what if she was right? Damn it. Zenobia was so frustrated. Renato landed on the island, expecting Zenobia's ambush at any moment. On the other hand, there did seem to be a lot of ravens around here. Were they just lost patrols stirring up trouble? Were they looking for him? If she was going to ambush him, wouldn't she keep the road clear so he wouldn't be on his guard? Unless they were part of the ambush, the obvious reasons he was meant to see to take his mind off the ones he wouldn't. God, after all these years, she's fucking crazy. This was much easier than free climbing. Zenobia's ambush never materialized. Could she be sincere? Calaveras was a great scholar. Renato doubted even Zenobia could convince him to say something he didn't believe. And if he was working for the Empire, he'd never have told Renato about the Sky Ripper in the first place. Well, he would listen to the wise old toad. But that didn't mean he had to agree. Bernardo's paws were getting numb. Calaveras really didn't want company, did he? Why? Why did he listen to Zenobia? She was the enemy. Of course she didn't want him to use his shiny new weapon. The thing was, though, she was appallingly honest. I mean, she wouldn't lie even to an enemy. At least she'd never lied to him. So if she said he had to see Calaveras, it probably was a good idea to see him. Ugh, it was infuriating. Huh? A lever? That was new. Most people still use doorknobs. Calaveras examined the Sky Ripper eagerly.
What? How often does a new relic surface?
He brushed off Zenobia's warning.
Oh, what do sorceresses know about physics?
However, he did know a few ways to make the weapon even more precise and more powerful, and quickly went off to tinker. Soon the Sky Ripper no longer whined, but thrummed like a hummingbird taking off. It was ready for war. And so, Bernardo thanked Calaveras and took the legendary weapon to the final battle. But where were the other rebel ships? Had something happened? He could defeat the Imperial fleet with a Sky Ripper, but he couldn't govern. He was not cut out to be emperor, and he'd no desire to be one. There were a few rebel ships here and there, but there was no organization to the battle. Where was the Council flagship? Something had gone terribly wrong. But he had the Sky Ripper, and the Ravens had nowhere they could hide. Sorry, mustache, thought Bernardo. There was a sign. Take the goat across first. speaker was on the deck, bleeding. Why was she even here? They found our base, she croaked. The council, all dead. We must surrender. No, we can still win this, said Renato. I have the Sky Ripper. He would be a real hero and save the day, even when all appeared to be lost. You're a good boy, said the speaker. And then she died. He wished there were more pylons he could use the hook on. He needed to construct additional pylons. Fired the Sky Ripper. With a tremendous whoosh, the Emperor's flagship went up in flames. And for good measure, he played the beam around it, setting all the other nearby Imperial ships on fire too. And he watched them burn. The few remaining rebels gave a cheer. And then they stopped cheering. There was a hole in the air. A blackness, like a tear in a parchment. Wind was blowing into it, widening it. It grew larger. Crates were falling off ship decks, upwards into the hole. and the world itself seemed bent, like the reflection on a curved mirror as it poured into the ravenous hole. He guessed that somewhere behind that ever-widening hole were gods that had long been exiled. But it didn't really matter. Time was done for here, and soon it was. Okay, that was weird. He could have sworn he just died. Instead, he was on the Farfarer, sailing away from Ubar. And it was still burning. He'd fled burning Ubar years ago, hadn't he? And now he was back there. Had all those years fighting the Empire been nothing but a vision into the future? A useful vision if it was true. He'd learned something. The core was powerful, but dangerous if used improperly. He'd made bad choices. But now, when the real battle came, he wouldn't make those choices. He wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The book's pages began to flip backwards, towards the beginning. And he realized that his adventure was just beginning. The clouds
Então aqui,
over the Isles of
já comecei pela história 23, agora mandou uma mensagem: encontre as 3 verdades que faltam.
Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base.
Vamos ver agora se tem uma fechadura.
Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced.
É pra onde que a gente vai.
Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals. Could this be where the Iblis stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does, thought Renato. On the other hand, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Lapino was no game changer, but could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
Eu escolhi essa. Deixa eu entrar aqui em opções. Agora não aparece, ó, pra mim aquele mostrar as verdades lá. Não aparece agora.
The island was windswept desert. No one went there except ostriches and ostrich hunters. The Iblis stone. It sounded ominous. It sounded powerful. Every child could sing verses about the Sky Ripper, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls. A ruby that drank blood. A jewel only a righteous man could give away. Were all these things the Iblis stone?
Bom, então beleza, né? Parar por aqui. Eu acho que eu vou fazer um em off. Pode ser que eu faça. Depois eu falando qual são os caminhos, né? Pegar a pedra de Ibis. Pode ser que eu faça, pode ser que não. Beleza? Então aí, né? Mais um troféu. Pegamos um troféu. Dor de cabeça. Vai dar dor de cabeça aqui pra achar as histórias. Beleza? Se você gostou, comente, compartilha, deixa aquele like. Eu vou ficando por aqui, você vai ficando aí. Um abraço, fui.